Let's go. The Tesla Model S p100d today in our full review on Autogefühl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars. Today with Thomas. We're going to take a detailed look on the exterior, interior and the driving experience with the enormous, ludicrous performance of this top p100d model. And you also sent me the question, is this actually at the moment the best car? We will talk about this question throughout our review as well. And we'll also talk about the new interior material strategy by Tesla, which has also evoked a lot of attention recently. So now let's go with all the details in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! The front is really seamless in the design. An electric vehicle does not need a big front grille opening, and so everything could be left closed and also good for the aerodynamics with some sharp design ideas here also for the LED. By the way, when you click the key once, you close the car, but you have to attention that you don't do this intentionally. When you click twice, you can see here also you can activate the light here, the LED signature light. It's still okay, but then do not, when you want to close the car, click twice in the front, because that is opening the front hood. It's good that you can do it on the key, but you have to be aware of that you don't do it intentionally, and then maybe you get up in the morning and you say, hey, did I crash to something because there's a gap here? No, this is just an additional small front trunk. So the cool thing is, when I approach the vehicle and I have the key in my pocket, here it is, the door handles flip out, and this is something like in a welcoming of the vehicle. And again, if you press once with the key, closes. If you press twice, it opens again. 4.97 meters or 16'3" is the total length of this vehicle. The alloys 19 or 21 inch, those ones here the optional 21 inch. The side profiles dominated by this chrome frame around the windows and this coupe style ending. Also this glass roof is falling down very flatly. That serves very elegant design. The main designer is here below the door handles, and again not too many design lines to have this overall still very elegant appearance. The side cameras are installed right here. Sometimes they are in the side mirrors. In this case they have them right there. Also a nice idea, why not? What is your opinion on the Model S design? And you've already seen recently the Model 3 comes somewhat close for sure for the overall design of this vehicle, so really like some brothers. The rear is characterized by this horizontal chrome fin. We also have today here some carbon fiber ring, a small one, which is very fitting as a contrast to the white exterior color. Also it says p100d here, P for the performance, and the D always stands when the car has all-wheel drive. There's no shaft in between, it's always separated by two electric engines, front axle and rear axle. And there are 75, 90 and 100 available. The 75 also without the D, just without the all-wheel drive, then that would be the entry model, about 70,000 euros in Germany as an entry price. It depends on the governmental benefits also. In other markets in the US you can get it cheaper, for example in states where you have a lot of subventions. And then for this one here, the p100d, the top model, goes up to double the price. As with almost all of the vehicles, you can easily calculate 140,000 euros. That is very expensive. However, if you compare it to competitors like, for example, Porsche Panamera or Mercedes S Coupe or S Class, or even the 7 Series, or even the the segment below that, depending on which you want to compare, it's almost the same price, so it's not exactly expensive when you think about the competitors. Of course, the Model 3 then will offer you also a cheaper entry. Acceleration-wise, it does make a difference because it also comes with different batteries. The 75 has a smaller battery, and then 5.8 seconds to 100 kilometers. Then it goes down 4.4 and so on over the 90 models, and then here 2.7, which is it's not really necessary, top of the line. But meanwhile, I mean, you could also be just satisfied with an entry Model S for sure. And the loading area, of course, it's a design-focused flat window, so it's limited in height, but you can very well use it. Here's a cover. Well, I did have some problems. Sometimes you forget it, and then it wobbles around while driving, so you always have to remember to put it down again. But you can also remove it completely, of course. Then you see, very flexible. Here's some more. Whoa, it's a very big gap. Then below here, you can take out the charging cable, for example. So this is for the charging station. Then here's also for the normal household plug. So it's really hidden very well there. There's also an option for 6th and 7th seat that would be foldable up there and then against the driving direction, so that is possible. Top tethers here on the back of the seats. It's not too easy to flip them from here, but you see it is possible, especially when the cover is demounted. Then you have a 2/3, 1/3 split to load through things. So, and then this red reflector, you have to go inside the vehicle and then pick the menu to open the charge port. And then you can also put your cable in there. There's also LED, you see here, for example, blue at the moment. And when you put it in and then the charging box at home or maybe the public station is running, then it will flash green. Come on, I want to show you it once more with closing and opening. It's just nice stuff. Then let's hear the door closing sound. I think they could still work on that. I mean, those details, they don't have it at 100%. But visually now from the processing quality, it's already very good. You see everything fits together right there. From a Mercedes parts bin, window levers here, for example, and also we continue onto the interior. The columns at the steering wheel, probably same supplier, or they get it from Mercedes. I'm not sure which way around it is. And Alcantara nice here on the top of the dashboard, combined with the leatherette. Steering wheel quite big actually, and it's really a spaceship. You can already see it in the interior. Talking about the seats, well, unfortunately, this is quite basically one of the very last Tesla that comes with animal skin seats. In the Model X we already had a full leatherette variant. You can already go for the Model S so far in white, with perforation for the seat cooling. But now Tesla has switched completely, say no more leather. We're a sustainable brand. We go for that all the way. And then it starts with black with with cloth on the inside, leatherette on the outside, and also you can see then certain parts here is a cloth leatherette mix in black. Then you can go for full leatherette, artificial leather in black, in beige, or in white. And with the black one, you can also pick if the roof, from the inside is black or beige. With the white one, it's always black. And with the beige one, it's always bright. So those ones are the new seating choices. And again, all leatherette, great step. And that shows, as a manufacturer, you cannot say no more, this is just a niche market. Now it's widely accepted. It's better to go with a combination of sustainability and luxury. We've been talking that for 4 years, And now one manufacturer finally realized it all the way. I'm so proud of that. That's really great stuff. The steering wheel, by the way, does not yet automatically come with leatherette. So in the white interior it does, but for the other ones, as far as I understood it, best is when you order the car, also check that box or ask the dealer for it, please, that you also want the leatherette steering wheel. You will not notice any difference. Then the instruments, all digital, already right here with good visualizations. It's really nice. And you can pick, for example, also temperature here or the fan speed, just to have recent calls, to control it with the thumb at the steering wheel, that you are not distracted with a big screen in the middle while driving. So very good invention. And when you put the car to D, just goes with the digital speed in the top part, or P mode again, then you are in the parking mode. At the moment, 470 kilometers left. It was at 480, 490. The range differs from the model. It started with about like the real range, 380, 370 kilometers an hour with a 75. And here with the 100 then, or 100D. So it goes up to about 500 in realistic driving terms. So this is really good finding also. So the numbers they give out are pretty real. Of course, they're always a little bit higher, and in winter it drops down a little bit. But I mean, overall, depending from the battery, 370 to about 500 kilometers range, you can really work with that, can't you? Cockpit overview. What you can see is a very simplistic design. There are hardly any buttons left. I like the Alcantara surface here in the top part. Also the sensual lines coming right there. You feel calm and collected when you look at this because it's so clean, everything. Just the buttons for the warning indicators, that's mandatory, and one for the glove box. That's funny. Then of course the 17-inch screen. I mean, think about it. It's been like this for 5 years, and no one has matched that in a just in a way. This is unbelievable. You wouldn't, if you look at this car today, you would say this is so futuristic. It's all new, but wait a minute, it's been out for 5 years and no other manufacturer has managed that. It's strange. So now to the screen in detail. I mean, overall it's overwhelming. Of course, here with this Google Map view, you can also, to have it more simplistic or maybe more, a little bit faster, for example, you can also switch it to the normal map view. Of course, you can zoom in and out. I mean, it could load a little bit faster, that's for sure. It always depends on the internet connection too. But I mean, you can really very well see where you're going there. You can also check out the charging stations, which are next one, the Tesla superchargers, for example. So that's also a handy function. Also, the voice control works very well. For example, let's see, navigate to Berlin. So you see, that's working really flawlessly, and you don't really have to actually have that precisely. You can also speak a little bit more freely, like with Siri, and that's also something that not all manufacturers have really managed yet. Then music, for example, you can stream and also connect the phone via Bluetooth to stream music. I would do that because you don't really need Apple CarPlay with this system. Because you have a great Google and satellite view navigation system and everything else, you just do via Bluetooth. So that's really fine. Camera-wise, I mean, look at that. What a resolution. That is really great. So you have a very crystal clear view by that. You can also go to the web if you have, still some. I think we ran out of money for this moment. Is it? Yeah, it is loading. So now I can take a look at the camera on the one hand and have Autogefühl website loading here. So that's also some cool stuff. The internet connection is not too fast here at the moment. Maybe you can also connect it at home to the Wi-Fi. You can also switch the screens around here, or you can also put it on the full screen. And again, it could load faster if we had a better connection now. But then, you know, it's cool because these days I was driving, holding at the traffic light, red one. There was, wait a minute, the trunk of the Range Rover Evoque convertible, did it open to the top or to the bottom? Oh, let's go to the Autogefühl side and check it. Oh, then the traffic light is green again. Let's drive further. It's really funny stuff. Then also what I want to show you are the vehicle controls. You can switch the steering mode. We'll do that while we drive. This is the Ludicrous acceleration mode. We will test that, of course. You've already seen a preview. That is totally crazy. The regenerative braking, we'll talk about that you can change, you know, how fierce it is. You can open all the, you know, front trunk and charge port from here. The charge port you can open either in this menu, or when you go to the very top to the lightning symbol, then you can press here, open charge point, and then it opens. So you have those possibilities. And also for cold weather, this is my favorite function, also from the visualization wise. So cool that they can activate all those seat heating. Oh, maybe I should leave the seat heating in the rear activated, that Michelle starts sweating now when it's filmed from the rear. Okay, so he doesn't think that's funny. Heated steering wheel is also available here. So a lot to do here. The most of the stuff you would do while standing still, while driving, it's not really helpful. But then again, you know, the main functions you can also do with the steering wheel, as I showed you earlier. And then the standard functions, you would already go right there and just do them once, for example, that everything is set to your, you know, to your basic needs. So in the lower part, it always remains this way. And even if you don't do it at the steering wheel, it is possible also while driving to change the temperature here. And with other touchscreens, you have to press a button first and then get to a climate menu. Here, at least it stays in this way. No matter what I do in the top part, it stays all the way that way. And that is also something which, you know, you can still change and do it. And then you can also control, you know, for the left and the right side separately, for example. That is also possible, or get here to a seat heating shortcut. And below that is, by the way, a hidden storage space. It's actually quite spacious. I haven't used it yet, but you can of course use it. But maybe you never want to clutter this vehicle because it's so clean in design from the inside. So, and in the middle console with a carbon fiber cover, it's also good build quality. And then you can have adjustable cup holders depending on the size of your bottles. And well, this is really actually a huge part in here. You know, there were versions of the Model S which had nothing right here, like just a middle tunnel to put bags on there. You could also argue for that, but here in this case it has become common to use this middle lower console to put beverage holders and stuff. Then it's actually for the iPhone 5 very well. I'm not actually sure, I need to check that. Maybe one of you know if there are also other plugs available, for example also like for Android phones. This is of course a very handy solution to charge your phone directly. One USB port is then gone, but there's another free one, 12-volt power supply, and you can also close that one. And then there are even more beverage holders under the armrest here. Oh, sorry, wrong side for the mobile phone. Like this. So some shallow cup holders, maybe for a cup of coffee. And that's it here for the front. So what about the rear compartment? You know, this segment of vehicles does not have the best package. I mean, the ratio of length on the outside and space on the inside. And the same is actually here. You can sit here very well as a tall adult. I'm on meters 86 or 6'1". However, I would say the driver in the front to put the seat a little bit higher, that I can better put my feet under the seat. Knee room just a little left, and that's sometimes a result for cars which are 1 meter shorter. But it's the same actually when you look at, you know, at a Porsche Panamera or something. Headroom wise, with a glass roof here, it still works. Yeah, that's possible. But you know, I can just put a hand over my head. This one here, the version with a complete glass roof, it has no shade for that, and it cannot be closed or opened. For very hot climate, you have to think about that. And you know, there's also another version available where you can open a small glass roof, but then you have this bar in the middle part. So this one here is especially attractive, for example, for the rear passengers. You sit relatively upright here in the rear, but again, you see also for my legs, there's a little bit short seating area, so a little bit cramped. So the rear bench they could still work on, and the package too. I'm really looking forward how it looks like with the Model 3. And you can also flip the seat from here. Also, you know, this is better, actually easier possible from here than from the trunk. Here we have the missing 1/3 split. Also for, you know, infotainment wise, or you know, smartphones in the rear, you have 2 USB ports, and there's also, you know, retractable beverage holders here for the rear seats. Driving part, and we will start in the normal sport mode when we're at the traffic light. Well, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Michelle is not really that awake yet. Shall we make him awake? Shall we wake him up properly? Well, he's just had a coffee. Maybe you should lower the window first if he wants to get rid of the coffee. So and just look at the speed when we're just in normal sport mode. We will test the Ludicrous mode, which you've seen a short preview in the very beginning, also again live, because there's still really a big difference between the Ludicrous and the sport mode. But already in the sport mode, it's really, let's go. And that was 50, and the guy that, you know, horned behind us because we weren't starting at like half a second after the traffic light went green, I still can't see him. It's like we're gone. And that happens to you all the time if you really hammer the throttle, you know. So it's like, this is actually the only car, together with the Model X, where I could be getting sick from the acceleration as a driver. That really, you know, doesn't happen at all. But I mean, at the same time, when we were standing at the traffic light, there was no need for a start and stop function, all electric, all silent. The same happens here, because, you know, from the outside, it's already about 30-40 kilometers an hour, that the sound of the wheels is actually louder than anything else, possibly from an engine. But when you're driving yourself, especially we could check that out in the smart electric convertible, it's still working to like 70-80 kilometers an hour, that an electric vehicle is really more silent. And for example now, 100 kilometers an hour is a good speed for the motorway, and the car is really silent enough. You will realize, however, later when we are having a little bit more of a higher speed test, this vehicle is not the best in sound insulation at even higher speeds. They couldn't manage this building quality and this sound insulation yet. So yes, for example, the Mercedes E-Class or whatever, Porsche Panamera, you drive 200 and you hear nothing. It's not happening with this vehicle. However, you also can think about, you know, that shouldn't be their first goal. They first have to focus on other things. And also, how relevant is that to a non-German market? So which other country, which is not Germany, is driving 200 on the motorway? And so on a global scale, maybe it's not that important. So the steering is, let's say, neutral. See, it's direct enough. It's not extremely progressive, so you do have to steer a little bit. The size is pretty huge. It could also be a little bit smaller. I wouldn't mind that, actually. And, you know, to show off a little bit to people, you can hit the acceleration. But the thing that I really enjoy more with this vehicle is really the cruising and steady, silent acceleration. It's so effortless, and you really get to an own mood when riding this vehicle. So there's hardly been another car which conveyed a certain feeling really when driving it. So, you know, there are so many great cars overall on the market, But this one here makes you, let's say, groovy. So you can really relax, have this futuristic screen, the silence from the electric vehicle, and then this simplicity you can also enjoy while driving the car, because it calms you down. If you compare again, for example, the Mercedes E-Class or an S-Class, or also the new Panamera, there's so much things, you know, you can control here a lot of things too, but still you have this minimalistic approach overall in the design, in the interior, and a lot of the other upper class cars or upper segment cars, they somehow mess with your brain in a way that it's too much, you're a little bit overwhelmed, and that's not happening here. So you can really focus on driving the vehicle, and that's really great. Range, by the way, already talking about that now. So I've recently charged it fully and driven about like 20 kilometers. So the realistic range for this p100d in our test is about 480, 490 kilometers. That's great. Usually from the official European stated range, or also consumption figures and stuff, we deduct a 1/3. For example, with the e-Golf and the BMW i3, we had 300 kilometers of range on paper, 200 in reality. That was applicable for every vehicle, electric vehicle we've driven so far. Here, obviously, it seems we can only deduct about 20%. So it's a better result. It's coming closer to the official figure. And I mean, I had a discussion with my neighbor latest, driving, you know, Mercedes SL and stuff, and he said, I'm not getting any further with my consuming petrol engines than 500 kilometers. So this is really more than sufficient. Again, you need the charging infrastructure. That's the one that's really important. So this one here is, on the one hand, the p100d. On the other hand, it's not that fully spec'd. For example, we do not have the extensive autopilot in here. However, I do have another test from an earlier drive. That earlier drive, the autopilot was not restricted at all. Meanwhile, it's a little bit more restricted. At that time, it wasn't. It was like some legal gray zone. Still good to check out what the autopilot is capable of. But we are in this transition period where, on the one hand, there are things that are missing for the autopilots. On the other hand, they are somehow better than the law would actually allow it at the moment. So, you know, we're taking step by step there. In this case, so far, the driver is still responsible, and you should consider it as a help to relax a little bit more. We just, in this case here, have a normal cruise control, but you can all update it with software, and that's also another element. For example, in the middle part, you can see that the sensors are all active and also realizing the cars in front of us and next to us and so on. So this car would totally be capable of everything, you know, just needs software updates. And also other manufacturers are going in this direction now, that you build one car and then later on you can update stuff and so on. So we're going to our next Autobahn part. Here, for example, at 70 kilometers an hour, you see how well the car's reacting. And why is such a heavy car so agile still, and such a long car? Well, the batteries are placed in the very bottom of the vehicle, and so the center of gravity is so low, keeping the car gluing it to the ground. And that also helps us with this ludicrous acceleration, also with the all-wheel drive. There's no link in between. So for example, here now again the normal sport mode, 70 to 100, let's go, bam. Even at the side. Yeah, about that. So just, this is absolutely crazy, really crazy. But Michel is enjoying it so far, but he will not enjoy it anymore when I'm soon putting in the ludicrous mode and we're doing like start from zero. This is not, I can tell you the ludicrous mode is not something to enjoy. This is really, it's like, we did have our breakfast. I hope we'll stick to our breakfast. So here on the motorway again, also very comfortable to ride, very relaxing. So very good discipline. Again, yes, when it's very uneven, sometimes you hear some rattling here from the console. I could step up the game a little bit in the building quality. Everything what you see and touch is meanwhile very good, I think. But you know, sound-wise, they could step it up a little bit more for such an expensive vehicle. But I think that's also something where, you know, Mercedes and Audi got through over decades to achieve this very level. For Tesla at the moment, it's more important to build a Model 3 and to be able to build enough vehicles of those. And again, I have to say, yeah, there are certain things that are better with the established premium manufacturers, but then this vehicle gives you such a different feeling when driving it than with the others, that I would also, you know, say as someone that is really looking into the details, I wouldn't care. So I would rather say, yeah, you know, then it's a little bit louder at 160 or whatever, but still it gives me this simplistic feeling and the electric drive and the electric range. And you know, this very special, unique feeling this car is conveying. Those things that are better with this vehicle would be more important to me than the things that are worse with this vehicle. And I think that maybe accounts for a lot of other Tesla customers. And that's why I think that they're still on the very good way, a very good approach. And that we are all also already at the stage where we could really rate those things. Suspension-wise, by the way, you remember you had the air suspension that is standard for the p100d, or also for the just for the 100 without the all-wheel drive, without this Ludicrous mode. For the very entry models, you can pick the air suspension optional. It's surely worth it because it gives you superb riding comfort. It's, you know, sporty enough and yet, you know, super comfortable. However, you can always control something. For example, steering mode I can put to comfort and it's a little bit softer. I can also put the steering mode to sport. Then I get a little bit more firm control. I just prefer to leave it in the standard in the middle. Also the regenerative braking, I can put it to standard or low. And I can put the acceleration to Ludicrous. Flattering now. Oh. So everything will go very fast now. And I mean, I don't need the launch control. So I get to a stop just very briefly and then hammer it, and then that's like, this is maybe the one car I get nervous even before doing the launch control because it's really so crazy. So we see that everything is safe, safety first here, the Autogefühl. And then we get on the motorway. Okay guys, this one car we let pass. And then, let's go. Whoa. So that was 170. Michelle is relaxed, come on, buddy, yeah.
Let's do it again.
Yeah. Man, this guy is really tough as nails. What the hell has he been practicing? I mean, we had the Nissan GTR, which was very extreme. But I mean, here, like, you cannot even breathe while doing this acceleration. And I did some tests with, you know, different co-drivers, neighbors and stuff. And then when I hammered the throttle, there's you could even do those like reaction videos and stuff. Because I'm like, and then a lot of people just started to laugh out loud. So really priceless reactions for those. And I think, you know, we were at 170 kilometers an hour, where with other vehicles we were maybe hardly at 100. So, I mean, the special crazy part is really the 0 to 100. And there are also those drag race videos like quarter mile and stuff, where you see that to 100, Tesla S and X is out accelerating everything. 9F Turbo, 911 Turbo S, Nissan GTR, some Lambos. But then when you go like 100 to 200 kilometers an hour, or like 125 miles an hour, then the classic internal combustion engine cars catch up. But then again, 2.7 seconds is the official figure. Did you count, or did you check the in the time code what we had from 0 to 100 and write it in the comments? I mean, it's really amazing. And well, this Ludicrous mode, I literally never use it because it makes me sick. It's, even if you're used to fast cars, it's too crazy. It's too crazy for your body, especially if you don't have this combination then with the sound. It's like, imagine you would maybe you're sitting in your in a chair now, and then someone does like this, and you hear nothing. You feel first of all nothing, and suddenly your chair is 200 meters further away. And then your brain has to cope with that. So that's basically about it. So I'll go back to the normal sport mode now. Really crazy stuff. Surely good for show off, but really for nothing else. Now also the average wet hours and kilometers has increased. Now at 269 wet hours per kilometers. But if you drive normal, slowly, I could score something, 220 wet hours per kilometers. And then it always also makes sense if you like calculate it, We have this is 100 kilowatt battery. And when you have about, 250 wet hours per kilometers, you can also calculate that would be, also 220, that would be approximately something between 400 and 500 kilometers of range. So it does also make sense in calculating wise. So see, when you're driving very sporty, it goes up, of course, like with a normal combustion engine, but you can also keep it lower. And also talking about the regenerative braking, or this recuperation. So in this vehicle, it makes sense to leave it in the standard mode. Low would be less recuperation. So you're not, you're not reducing speed that much then when you leave off the throttle. That could make sense, for example, in a Volkswagen e-Golf or in a Kia Soul. They have a different system they're working with. And how does that work? So Tesla and BMW, for their electric vehicles, well, Tesla only has electric vehicles, they think, let's put people to this one pedal driving, hardly use the brakes. And the brakes are just the normal brakes. They're separated from this recuperation or regenerative braking process. With Volkswagen or Kia, they have a different approach. They say you also induce that via braking. So, for example, in an e-Golf, you can also put no regenerative braking at all when going off the throttle. I personally like to drive it that way, but that's personal preference. Then you can just roll. And when you try to roll as long as possible, that would be the best in an energy saving way, because using the time to roll is always better than recuperating more. At least, when you want to roll as long as possible. And so then in the e-Golf, for example, you hit the brake, and then the brake says, I first start the regenerative braking, and only when more braking power is needed, I activate the real brakes of the vehicle. Here, when you hit the brake pedal, you also activate the normal brakes. However, when you're braking, you're also recuperating or regenerating. Why? Because you leave off the throttle. But it's not because you hit the brake pedal, but because it would be the same than just lifting the throttle, and in that time the car automatically starts the regenerative braking. Did that make sense? So yeah, it's a little bit complicated maybe, but the thing is, so for BMW with the I models and here Tesla, they want you to mainly use the accelerating pedal and then just leave it off and use, the time of regenerative braking to gain the power back. So for example here now, when I leave the throttle, the car's really decelerating pretty fast, and also tells me here in the display that it's gaining more energy right there again. If I would go to the low mode, there's not so much deceleration. Here on the motorway, it's still happening, yes, but especially when you would be driving slower, then you would feel the effect. But with this vehicle, to increase the range too, you would rather than leave off the throttle, use all the regenerative braking, and you're really learning it. For example, if you want to let the car roll, you stay a little bit on the throttle just. And then you steadily learn, I know when this vehicle is in front of me there and there, and this is the distance, then I know how to, press or leave off the throttle that I really get to a standstill in front of the traffic light, for example, or in front of the next vehicle. So you're learning that. I mean, it's different approaches. You can get used to every one of those. So, by the way, for example, in the Ludicrous mode again, when you're already at the higher speed, for example now at 130, just one on the throttle, 160 is that. I mean, at those high speed, and then you also hear it now at 160, it's getting quite loud here. I mean, not if you compare it to some compact cars, but it's getting quite loud if you compare it, for example, to, other vehicles that are costing 100,000 euros and more. But again, I think it's not the main aspect with this vehicle. The general driving feeling is so... I mean, this is one of the very rare cars which I've driven, and I really said, damn it, I really want to keep this vehicle. I want to keep driving it. And sometimes I even, when... This was very important to me now because I had it for a longer time this time. It wasn't possible before with Teslas because there are hardly any test vehicles available. And the longer you have this vehicle, you really don't want to miss it. So, I mean, the design is better when the roof is falling in the rear. When I want to put a bicycle in the rear, I would like to, that's maybe in estate style. That would be more versatile, even though I don't like estates from the look that much. But they're more handy. But other than that, you can do anything with the vehicle. Something to criticize, when you're in the city and, searching parking lot and stuff, the turning circle is quite big. So, the bigger Mercedes models, they turn the wheels a little bit like this, tilted a little bit. That helps you, for example, in narrow parking surroundings. That would be maybe something to consider for the future. And of course, the Model 3 will be better to turn around in the city. So, it's still a big car, but as it's so agile to ride and so fun to ride, you only realize it when you're in a narrow parking spot surrounding. And I've also shown you the rear view camera earlier. Also amazing stuff to work with, for sure. Suspension-wise, by the way, you can adjust the ride height. When you can even set that. At the moment, it's set to when you're at 160 kilometers an hour, it goes a little bit lower in the air suspension ride. I could also do that right now. Just now, we're getting a little bit lower. You have maybe a little sportier ride and stuff. You can play around with that, and you can also put it even higher. For example, in off-road gravel situations, you want to spare your vehicle. You cannot set it at very high right now. That's only possible when you're driving really slowly. Then you can put it very high and not only higher. Here, 50 kilometers an hour is the limit, And I could also put it to very high. And maybe you can also use it for show off here on the traffic light. Imagine someone would be next to us now and we go like some, you know, easy rider. Go. Let's pump the car up, yo. Maybe the guy behind is like, what's he doing there? It's like, you know, like, down with the suspension. Some rap music. Do you know those contests, you know, when they're like, pump the cars up and then have like ladies with glasses of water inside and they try not to spill it? It's funny stuff. So, and as soon as it goes faster now, goes down now to the high mode, and of course we just usually leave it in the standard mode. That will give us more, you know, best comfort than on a long-term run. There's really so much to tell you when driving this vehicle. Also, think about, you know, controlling the touchscreen while driving. Everything is really big, so it's not that you would miss something in the touchscreen. Also, temperature-wise, I usually criticize when the temperature can only be adjusted with the touchscreen. But here, as in the lower area, there's always the very same display that the temperature stays where it is, and you don't have to like call it first. You can easily adjust it here. But even easier, you can also do it just with the steering wheel. So you can either pick the phone menu and then you're very fast in the small instruments at your, for example, recent calls. That doesn't function. Actually am using very often. Then, yeah, recent calls, for example. And I could go there. But you also can go, for example, to fan speed to increase the ventilation a little bit. And you can all do it on the steering wheel. And this is something they've added to, you know, when you think you would be too distracted from the main big touchscreen, then you can everything, you know, do by that. And temperature, that would be very important to me as well. So you can control the temperature here, right there, just with the turning knob at the steering wheel. It's a very useful function. I really would be looking forward to that, how they really solve that issue in the Model 3. Because Elon Musk has said you won't need a head-up display or a central instruments. There's just a central screen in the middle. Let's see what he means by that. So I'm really looking forward to that. You know, on the left side I have the tire pressure at the moment all the time. I could also have something else there, and when I set a GPS route, for example, there would also be the GPS information in the middle part. But the most important is probably the speed, that you can check the speed. Here, for example, now, just the regenerative braking, decelerated the car enough, then you really learn how the forces are applied, and it's actually getting easier and easier, and then you can really use, or you get the most energy back out of the rolling power of the vehicle. Yeah, such an impressive ride in so many different aspects, and I really hope you enjoyed it here with us. Yeah, maybe as a last part we can also do some more agile riding up the hill, which we are getting to soon. And before that we can do a sound check in the tunnel. Yeah, that's you know, that's also something, you know, when we're in the tunnel, sometimes we like go on the throttle and then like, and everyone's like, whoa, amazing. And the thing is, when you're with this vehicle and silent and still have so much power, and what's that? And other vehicles are roaring and stuff, then you start to realize, wait a minute, is that really so cool? What, you know, we always believe that like this roaring sound is so cool and it's like the ultimate experience for all car enthusiasts, but is it? And when you're driving this Tesla Model S here, you start to think about it and say, you know, maybe it's not really necessary, because there's also an experience from driving such a sporty vehicle. I do not miss any sound part, because this vehicle is so convincing and so great in driving anyway. So, here again, for example, I just left off the throttle. That lost some speed there, and that's totally fine. Oh, there's a pole in front of us that I just wait a little bit. And for example here, when we're especially driving so slowly, I just love driving electric vehicles. So silent. Also in traffic, for example, it's no problem. And you don't have like engine goes on and off all the time again. And also when we're driving in nature surrounding, we are not, annoying so many people or animals or, people living here. Here you can see you have to turn the steering wheel quite a bit. It's not that progressive. However, it might be, when you want to have a rather natural steering feeling, that's quite okay. The center part, like the first few angles, are a little bit dead in the feeling. That could be improved. But here, it's such a big vehicle and so well to handle. Such a smooth handling and driving feeling, and the acceleration also from the low speed, low RPM regions is so incredibly effortless. And the engine doesn't have to scream totally for that. It just comes there because, the electric engines, there's no traditional torque curve, no power curve. So basically, like digits in computer language, like either 0 or 1. It's like the power's there or not. And that helps you really to get to speed so much. And it's like once on the pedal, and we're there, so effortless, smooth again. It's so much fun to drive the vehicle. Too bad the pole is blocking our way at the moment. But then again, this is also a central part. In this vehicle, you don't feel like, I have to push the throttle all the time. If you, for example, driving a McLaren, it's like, I need speed. But here it's also when you say, there's someone in front of me. So what? Then I relax a little bit, enjoy the silence, maybe turn up the music, something like that. You can be relaxed at the very same time. And when you have some, space to drive, space to go, you get at the thought and think, hey, great acceleration, that's so much fun to drive. So you can enjoy both here, really. And also mentally, you can very well switch from one mode from speed to comfort and back again. That's it. So now to our conclusion, Tesla Model S here today is a p100d. Elegant exterior for sure. The interior build quality has been, stepped up over the years now. You cannot really imagine that it's a 5-year-old car. It's totally inconceivable. There are still some elements which could be improved, that's for sure. Some gaps and stuff, some more squeaking sounds, especially if you're riding over uneven terrain or if you're driving a little bit faster. In this respect, the car cannot catch up 100% to Audi, BMW, Mercedes yet. But then again, there are so many things where this vehicle is way ahead. The big screen, also how the whole interface is made up. Still, you can have those solutions here, that the temperature is always at the lower part, or that you can also control everything at the steering wheel, which is then not, again, necessarily distracting you. This car gives you such a relaxed feeling. You can boost it totally. The Ludicrous acceleration is really ludicrous. It's like totally insane, this speed. And how would you imagine that this one here is faster than any Lambo, for example? At the same time, more you really realize you want to enjoy the silent ride. This electric ride, and also the smoothness that this car is conveying with the simplicity also in the design. This is really an iPhone on wheels. And I really have to say that hardly any other vehicle yet gave me this specific feeling that I really want to keep it, and that is something special. And I really have to, realize that I don't care about, the minor mistakes. This one is still a very convincing vehicle. And so yes, if we consider our first question in the introduction, I think it is at the moment the best car available. Not in the sense that, you know, all the gaps and production stuff, you know, is really perfect. But there's maybe some other vehicle that might be in Mercedes E-Class or whatever. But from the whole feeling this car is conveying, and for example also, you know, that Tesla changed all the way to sustainable seating materials now, that is something, you know, other manufacturers wouldn't dare yet. They offer stuff, but they don't offer it completely yet. And this is also something, you know, they just go for it. So overall, even in the year of 2017, this car is still visionary. And I also realized with reactions, I mean, we're driving 150 different vehicles a year, and no other vehicle, even though it's not a new vehicle, had those kind of reactions from people sitting in there and say, I need this vehicle, or like totally amazed by one of the elements in there. That happens with no other vehicle we are driving or testing. And that is something, you know, also that I think it's not my imagination, also other people react in the very same way. So overall, still a very impressive car. If you think about the price now, it is definitely justified if you compare it to other very expensive vehicles which are comparable to this one here. Then of course, actually the best car would be a car that is also, you know, affordable in price. You know, best car, if price plays no role, I would say yes. Best car overall would to me always be a car that is also justified in the pricing in a way that everyone or the most people can afford it. And maybe this will be the case with the Model 3 that I'm really looking forward to. Thank you so much. I want to hear your feedback on this vehicle here. Let's discuss it, exterior, interior driving experience, and also follow us further here on Autogefühl. Thank you so much.